Okay, so 89% of you have spoken, and you guys have decided that you want to embark on this series about sex. So, we're going to start today. I wanted to start with the most delicate topic first, and then we can get into the stuff that as adults we can have a little bit more fun with. Even though obviously I want to be serious in this conversation, but I thought I'd start with Black single mothers. Not to pick on Black women as single mothers. Obviously, it's not just our community that has single mothers. But since this series is on sex, I wanted to talk about the aspect of Black single mother sex that leads to or can lead to the abuse of children sexually. So it would seem like these two things are not related, but they are. And this is going to be rather controversial. Hey, Ms. Buckner. Hey, Mika. This is going to be rather controversial, but I feel like we should have the discussion, right? So first of all, before we dig into this, because single mothers, they already get a bad rap. I want to talk about what a single mother is not, okay? Let's talk about that first. And I'm specifically talking about single mothers and not single fathers, and I want to explain why. Number one, because the major perpetrators of sexual abuse on children are men. And the major people, the largest population, the Black community that so let me start over. The major perpetrators of sexual abuse are men. And men who look to sexually abuse children typically look toward single mothers, right, as their targets. And because single mothers are the majority of solo parents in the Black community, I am looking specifically at single mothers because the mothers and their children are the most vulnerable population. So I'm not trying to pick on single mothers. I really want you guys to try to understand that this conversation is a conversation I think we should have simply because we want to do everything we can as women and as men to protect our children. And so that's going to include having conversations that make us a little bit uncomfortable. So yes, Mika, thank you. Mika's starting this off, and that's going to be the moral of this whole live. So first of all, I want to talk about what a single mother isn't. Solo parents who are single, are more likely to be more highly educated than, and they're also more likely to have been married. Okay. So then a cohabitating parent. So you have some parents who are parents to a child and they live together, but they are not married. When we look at single solo parents, we find that these tend to be more educated people and they tend to have been married previously. So when we talk about the single mother epidemic, quote unquote, in the Black community, we always treat it like these women are just running around, having sex. Hi, Asha. Having sex with, random men and getting knocked up out of wedlock. The fact of the matter is the vast majority of single mothers actually are married and then they become single mothers because of divorce, separation, or widowing. So that's a huge part of the single mother population. So I just want to throw that out there. Also, we find that although single parents are often in poverty, we do find that amongst Black single mothers, most of them are working class and educated. I know that's controversial. That's not the common narrative, but that definitely is the fact. And I will be presenting, I will include all of my sources in the description box when this live is over, as I typically do when I cite sources. So I want to just throw those things out there so that we understand the demographic of woman that we're talking about. Um, Also, single mothers tend to be older. This comes from the fact that a lot of them have been married previously. Um, and again, they normally have had their children in wedlock or at least been married prior. So, with all that said, let's get to the part that's going to be a little more controversial. The part that's going to be a little bit more controversial is going to be talking about female accountability in what is very literally an epidemic of child sexual abuse in the Black community. And this comes into woman's sexuality. So that is how it fits into our conversations about sex. I don't know how long this sex series will go, but we're going to start here because this is probably the most dicey topic that we'll cover. And we'll talk about other things like sexualization of women. We'll talk about, pornography. We'll talk about like other subjects, but let's just start here with the most important thing, which is protecting our children. So when we talk about the impact of single motherhood on child sexual abuse in the Black community, it may not make us happy to say it, but it is children that are in single female-led households who are the highest at risk and the most likely to be sexually assaulted. And so we have to talk about what the mother's responsibility as the head of the household is in protecting her children, right? So obviously, ideally, we want both parents involved, but we know that a father, no matter how involved he is, if he's not in the home, the onus of protection really is going to fall to the mother. So with that said, I just want to talk about how often child sexual abuse takes place. And I want to discuss what the risk factors are for that. So first of all, you have a single mother. She's alone. She is going to want male companionship. She's going to want to live her life, right? Date, things like that. Having a child, maybe not always having access to childcare, and wanting to be accepted by the opposite sex, knowing that you are a package, right? Oftentimes makes, or it doesn't make, but it incentivizes single mothers to be more flexible with their male companions than is healthy for their children. So what we find is that 1 in 6 men is sexually abused before the age of 18. So little boys of single mothers are not exempt from this. And that percentage goes up even more when we talk about children. 73% of child victims won't even let you know that they're being harmed for about a year. So this is a lot of contact that the men that women bring into their lives can have with their male or female children. And your child can be being harmed for a year and you never know about it because most children will not tell you right away. And that's because the abuse looks different. So things like giving a child a bath, okay? Bringing men into your household, allowing them to change your children's diapers, bathe them, dress them. These are all things that pedophiles get off on. They get off on the bathing, the changing, the dressing of children. And a lot of times women are so happy for the help, especially if a man is bringing gifts. And this is something else too. A lot of times as women, we are looking for men that get on well with our children. Me personally, I feel like if we're not getting married, then you don't need to be around my children. This is me personally. But a lot of times women are often so grateful for men that don't mind that they have kids, that will engage in what looks like healthy interactions with their kids, that they end up subjecting their kids to grooming. So for example, a man who brings your children presents, right? On the surface, it's like, great, this guy, he's awesome. He likes me. He's bringing, my son or my daughter gifts. And we're inclined to want to let our children have the gifts. That makes us comfortable having this person around our child because they seem to be getting on with our child. They seem to have interest in our children as women. And that individual, that behavior can be grooming behavior. Am I saying that all men that are nice to your kids are grooming them? No, I'm saying that you open yourself up to this, and that is actually a warning sign. Somebody taking a great interest in your child, because bringing a child presents and exchanging gifts for sexual acts is part of the grooming process. And that could even be access to, engaging in inappropriate behavior around you. So I don't let people pick my children up. This is just me, like married or not married. I don't allow people to pick my children up. The only people that hold my children are me, their siblings, their father, and my mother. Okay. Outside of that, and I do have like female cousins and things like that, their great grandmother, people like that. But as far as men, I don't let any men pick up my children at all. In fact, when Mr. and I first met, we were having a business lunch at my home, and my little one ran in and he went to pick up my son. And I literally said, please put him down. Do not pick up my children. And everybody knows this about me because, for example, a man will put a child on their lap in your presence, and it sort of lets the child know that that contact can happen when mom is present. So then when you are not present, this interaction or more can go on. Again, it's the danger that as single mothers, we put our children into because we're looking for help with babysitting, because we're looking for, you may be looking for a sexual partner. You're trying to date. It may be easier to have sex and entertain at your home because then you don't have to worry about a babysitter. But all of these things are what have allowed the child sexual abuse rate in the Black community to skyrocket. Skyrocket. We're talking almost 70% of girls sexually abused. 1 in 5 little boys sexually abused. This is ridiculous. And most of these children are in female-led solo parent households. So as women of the Black community, we have to be willing to discuss this and tackle this head on, right? Because if we don't have this conversation honestly, then who's going to have it and who's going to protect our kids? Hi, extra little curls. Hey, I don't know, fool. So let's keep talking about it, okay? 70% of all reported sexual assaults, including assaults against adults, 70% of them are children under the age of 17. Now we think of little kids, but this could also be an older child, right? This could be your 14, your 15, your 16-year-old. 70% of all sexual assaults are done on children. So if we count all the men, all the women, and all the male and female children who are sexually assaulted in this country, 70% of those are children that are sexually assaulted. That means that people sexually violate children more than anybody. And so we have to be hyper diligent. I know that it gets lonely, right? You want companionship. I know the burden of single motherhood is great. I know that when a man shows interest in you, he is good to your children, you want to view that as positive. I have to say that any good man will respect hypervigilance in a woman, right? Any good man is going to want a mother who is a good mother for a child, and they will respect the fact that you are hyper vigilant with your child. I would be suspicious of anybody who would expect anything less from you. It is better that you be hyper vigilant, which means that your sex life, right? Your dating life, your womanly needs are going to take a back seat to the safety of our children. And I'm a mother, so this is the case for us all, right? And although a lot of times we say, yes, we understand this, clearly we don't understand this because the child sexual abuse rates in our community are very high. And most of those children are in woman-led households. So although we do a lot of head nodding as women, we aren't executing. This is not how we're collectively living our lives, or we would see a much lower rate of abuse in our community. So let's talk about the factors that make your child more likely to be sexually abused if you're a single mother. Because if you understand what those risk factors are, you can be diligent in protecting your little one. And mind you, the protection of our children kind of runs twofold because abused children often perpetrate as adults. So we can stop a lot of this cycle by protecting the little ones we have now. That will create fewer adults that will be likely to offend. And also, once our community and once Black women are known for being highly protective over our children, our community will stop being a target for predators. Because our lack of hypervigilance makes our community vulnerable. When Black women are known that we don't play when it comes to our children, that dinner, sex, acceptance by men, anything like that does not take precedent over our little ones. When that is known, then predators will stop trolling the Black community for prey. So let's talk about the things that make us vulnerable. Mika said she wishes she was protected that way. I think that is a lot of our stories. That is a lot of our stories. I wish somebody was hyper vigilant with me when I was a child. And I think if again, when almost 70% of Black women have been violated as children, I think a lot of Black women, we can speak from personal understanding, and a lot of men too, why this is necessary, why we have to have this conversation and we have to take this seriously. I know a lot of people spend time shaming us as Black women, and that's not my purpose. My purpose is I want to see us empowered and strengthened so that we can protect our little ones, right? The things that many of us suffered through are not things we want our children to suffer through. So let's talk about some of the things that make us vulnerable to having our children sexually abused so that as mothers, we can be hyper vigilant about protection. First of all, perpetrators are always looking for passive children, quiet children, children that are troubled, lonely children from single parent or broken homes. So if you've had a child out of wedlock or you have been married and been divorced, predators are looking at you. You are an easy mark and your child is their prey. Is your child passive? Is your child very friendly? Do you have a child that will hug? One of my kids, I have a lot of kids. One of my sons, he is friendly to everybody. A lot of kids are like that. Very friendly children. You know, little kids don't have boundaries. They don't know that people can be dangerous. Very passive children. And this comes to us abusing our children, ladies. A lot of times as women, we can get very emotionally overwhelmed and we can scream or we can hit. I'm not saying I'm anti-spanking, but you know, just like smacking your child upside the head or pushing them. Let's have a real conversation. A lot of women engage in this behavior, screaming at them, and what you develop is a child that is very passive, right? Because they're not trying to be hit, they're not trying to be yelled at, so they become passive. But what we don't realize is what we cultivate often in our moments of frustration are children that then become vulnerable to sexual abuse. Again, I'm not trying to shame our women. I'm trying to empower us. We can have this conversation so that we can correct ourselves so we can protect our babies. Because it's not about our collective pride, right? It's about protecting them. So our feelings, our emotions, our shame in this issue have to come secondary to our protection of our children. So they're looking for passive children, quiet children, troubled children, lonely children from single parent or broken homes. They definitely like a child that is very trusting. We want to maintain our children's innocence, but the world is not a good place. So we need to teach them that every adult is not their friend. My daughters know strictly you can say hi to men if a man speaks to you, and that's the end of the conversation. Because no little girl or little boy needs to have extensive conversations with an adult male. If that person is not their brother, not their father, then there's no conversation to be had. You need to say your niceties and you need to move along. You're not going to be buddies with our children because that is what pedophiles are looking for. They want to be the buddy of your child because that budding friendship turns into a sexual relationship. So while we are often looking for men who will be friendly to our children and get on well with our children, that is actually the same behavior that can be dangerous for your child. And let's just be real. If you're not going to be married to or cohabitating with the father of your child, who are you going to trust with your most precious possession? Your child. Our children are our most precious possessions. And once something goes wrong there, we can never take that away. So I rather have a man be uncomfortable, and we as Black women should rather have a man be uncomfortable than try to make him comfortable and leave our child open to some kind of abuse. And again, we need to take this seriously because 1 out of 5 boys is sexually molested. Almost 70% of girls are sexually molested. So we must take this seriously. That means if you are a single mother in the Black community, it is more likely than not your child will be abused if you do not get on your P's and Q's about being hyper vigilant about your babies. That's for all of us. I'm a Black mother too. We absolutely must. I don't want to keep saying that because I just want to make it like you're not going to be the exception. Most of us are going to have this danger. So we all need to be collectively moving to be careful. And that means that our priority with a man cannot take precedent over us recognizing the warning signs of abuse. So a sexual abuser of a child is going to try to establish a trusting relationship with the child before abusing them. And that extends to making you as the mother trust them too. It is essential that you trust the abuser with your child and that your child trusts them too. A lot of times when we, as women, and I am not knocking this, I understand it is a great burden to be a single mother. But as women, a lot of times, the God's Reign says some of this abuse happens in the school too. That is correct. Yes, family and friends. Well, when we talk about shielding our children, we have to think about what are risk things. So, for example, my children are not allowed to do sleepovers. They will sleep over nobody's house. That's how many houses they're going to sleep at. None. No, you cannot have my child at your home at night. I also don't allow my children to do play dates where I'm not present. So if our children are going to play together in a house, I will be there, doors will be open, and I need to be able to walk freely around your house or vice versa. What does this mean for us? It means that, okay, I'm going to tell you guys something. This past summer, I had an offer from a family member. Okay. I had an offer from a family member to have my kids come out for the summer. This is a very close family member. And I told her no, absolutely not. Number one, I don't know your husband like that, and I don't trust him. Number two, they have a blended family. He has sons, and I don't know his sons. My children are going nowhere without me present. That is what I mean by hypervigilant, because it's those times, it's at the sleepovers, it's when somebody's babysitting your kid while you're out at the club, or when you need to work that shift and your boyfriend's watching the child, or Uncle so and so is watching the child. I mean, I know a case where a grandmother got married. So, grandma's husband died, grandma got remarried, and the man that she remarried was babysitting the grandkids and would give them baths. He would give the little girls baths. This is grandma's husband, right? Grandma is widowed, she remarries, and you've got, and this is a black family, you've got black women allowing the new grandpa to babysit the little girls, and now he's putting them in bathtubs full of water, giving them baths for his pleasure. These are the types of lack of diligence in mothers that cause children to get hurt. See, you think nothing of it because of the relation, but when I say hyper vigilant, I mean hyper vigilant. Because it's going to be the people that are close to you. It's going to be the guy you're dating. It's going to be Uncle so and so. It's going to be when all the cousins get together and have a sleepover at Auntie so and so's house. It's going to be when you just need a day to yourself. So you let your random cousin watch your kids. And it sounds like we're getting a bum rap as mothers because, gosh, don't you get a break? Can't you take a breath? Can't you do anything? What is more important, though? Every time you place your child in one of those situations, you run the risk. You don't know who's going to come through that house. You don't know what so and so is going to do. You don't know. That is how 70% of our little girls are getting raped, getting molested, getting touched, getting fondled, getting bathed. That is how 1 in 5 of our little boys is getting hurt. Sometimes it's so much to just need a break, to just go work that shift at work. But then the child is left vulnerable. And that is the reality of the situation. So, the most important factor in child sexual abuse is your family structure. If you have two biological parents in the house, those children are at the least risk. If you have a step parent in the house, those children are at a higher risk. And the highest risk are single parents. How many people have heard of the man that a woman married sexually abusing the children? It happens. Pedophiles will marry you to have access to your kids. Pedophiles will marry you to have access to your children. In fact, most pedophiles are married. Children who live with a single parent that has a live-in partner are at the highest risk. You know, when you just want to cohabitate with a man who's not the father of your children are the most likely to be sexually abused. As Black women, we must recognize this. Sometimes the desire to have the presence of a man in your home can be a problem. Because when a man is not the father to your children are the most at risk. I'm not telling you guys to never get married again. I'm just saying when you are cohabitating, not married, or married to somebody who is not the father of your children are at the highest risk, either from that man or from his extended family. Then there's also your extended family to take into account. Remember, we're talking big numbers here. 70% of Black girls are molested as children under the age of 16. 1 out of every 5 Black boys is molested. These are big numbers. So it may sound like I'm trying to kill all the joy out of your lives, but we got to keep it real here. It is these dynamics that are causing these children to be hurt. And as mothers, we are the first line of defense. We are the army, okay, as mothers. The burden really falls on us as mothers. Fair or not, it is what it is. So children who live with a single parent that has a live-in partner are at the highest risk. They are 20 times more likely to be victims of child sexual abuse. 20 times more likely. You living with your boyfriend is going to lead to one of your children being harmed. As women, we have to make some hard decisions. We have to make hard decisions as to what's going to be our priority. In the Black community, our children are at twice the risk of sexual abuse than, let's say, white children. So in the Black community, as single mothers, you have to be, as Black women, we have to be hyper vigilant because our children have double the risk of being harmed over anybody else's. Twice the risk. So we have to be 4 times as crazy about protecting our children. The way some of us are ready to key up a nigga's car over him cheating, ready to tear somebody's eyes out, bleach somebody's clothes, we need to take that energy and put that into protection of our children. How many of us are willing to be that crazy over making sure our children are safe? This might mean that you don't get your mommy day during the week, right? This might mean you have to skip cable so that you don't have to take that extra shift to pay for just extra bills that you have. You might have to go TV less, right? You might have to not wear the latest clothing so that you aren't counting on random people to watch your babies. This might mean the guy that you are interested in is not spending the night over your house. He's not coming to your house. He's not about to live in your house. This might mean a very long vetting process of a man. This might mean you want him to get along with your kids, but I'm afraid you're not going to be able to give gifts to my child. Like one too many gifts is going to be one too many problems because that's part of the grooming process. It seems ultra strict. It seems like, oh, you're saying we can't do anything. But when we have 70% almost of little girls being abused and 1 out of 5 little boys being abused, how hyper diligent is too hyper diligent would be my question. We want to feel that a lot of these actions are over the top, but is it over the top when almost all of our kids are being sexually molested? I mean, 70% is almost all of them. I mean, we realize that, right? That's like almost all of the Black children. Almost all of the Black little girls are getting molested. This is just what is reported. We're not even talking about who's not reporting. If 1 in 5 little boys in the Black community is being molested, then can we really ever be too over the top in our protection and in our willingness to self-sacrifice as mothers to protect our babies? Literally, I strongly feel this. I feel that it is the single mother in the Black community. It is our collective of mothers in the Black community who can help to greatly diminish child sexual abuse. We have the power to really change the face of this thing. Now, I'm not placing the blame on the abuse on the mother. No, the person who abuses the child is responsible for their own actions. But I am placing the weight of protection on the mother. We as mothers, it is our responsibility to do everything in our power to protect our child, even if that means sacrificing our own desires and our own wants and our own needs for our children. That may mean you go to bed alone every single night because having your man sleep in your house and wake up and wander your house freely could end up in your daughter or son being harmed. Right? That may mean Uncle so and so, who's always on board to keep our kids, we may just not get that girl's night out because Uncle so and so, or whoever he has in his home, might harm our child. Auntie so and so's boyfriend might fondle our child. So Auntie so and so is not going to get to babysit. Because you don't know her man like that. You don't know her son like that. You don't know these people to trust them with your most prized possession, which is your offspring. Our children are our most valuable things. They are our most valuable asset. They are the most important thing. Our children are more important than you. You are secondary to your child. I am secondary to my children. I know that that's not the common rhetoric, right? Everybody's like, well, you need a happy mom to, to have a happy child. If you got to take care of yourself first to take care of somebody else. No, it's all this taking care of ourselves first that has our child sexual abuse rates in the Black community so high. I think we've pretty much got taking care of ourselves down to a science. Now let's take care of our babies. Let's do that collectively. Let's make take care of your child first the motto, not take care of yourself first. Let's flip that narrative. Take care of your child first. Let that be my slogan and your slogan too. I know that's not what society tells us. Society says take care of you so you can take care of them. But while you're busy taking care of you, 70% of our babies are being fondled, molested, raped. So when do we start to realize the taking care of us narrative is not working? No, Mr. Muhammad, I didn't. It should be a priority for fathers too. I agree. But like I was saying earlier, the thing is that the most vulnerable population is the mother with the child in her home. The fathers can be as vigilant as they can be, but the thing is, at the end of the day, as with everything, when you have a child in your home, all of the hard work is your work. No matter how active a father is, if he's not living in the home with you and your child, the burden of everything falls to the woman. It's not right and it should not be that way, but that just is what it is. But yes, fathers definitely need to speak up. Let a woman know that you're not comfortable with her bringing men around your children. But again, the women have to have their heads on straight. Because just like when our babies get sick, if you're the only parent in the home, who's got to take care of that sick child? Who's got to make sure that they eat every single day? Go down, make their meals, make sure they're bathed and clothed. No matter how active a father is, if he is not in the home, the real work falls to the parent who's in the home. Which is why I'm addressing the mothers. Because we are who is in the home. And this is what we talk about. If the mother is working one or two jobs, who's supposed to protect the children then? These are questions that are valid questions, right? We have to remember as women, and this is why I don't promote promiscuity in women, that sex feels really good and that's all fine and dandy, but children are a huge responsibility. I'm not pro abortion, so I'm not going to tell a woman to kill her own child. But what I will say is this: the burden of raising another human being is so great that we should be teaching our daughters to protect their bodies and not to give their bodies to any man who is not their husband, so that they are not put in a position where they have a child and they are working two jobs and that child has to be cared for by somebody who might harm them. This is why I'm for very traditional structures where the woman is a stay-at-home mom, where she homeschools and the father works. That is the ideal situation for children. But you know, we're fallen, we do stuff, we make mistakes, we work with what we have to work with, but we must do the best in what we can do. If you are poor, your child is 3 times more likely to be sexually abused. That goes to the woman working 2 jobs, right? I don't know why, Mr. Marrying Man, but you know what? Sometimes you can date a person for long enough that you feel you can leave your child with them. Sometimes you really need to get something done, and this person that you feel you can trust is like, "I'll take care of your son or your daughter," and you do it. But it's those openings that predators are looking for. They're looking for your desperation, which is why, to speak to the mother that's working 2 jobs that somebody brought up, that's why somebody that has to work 2 jobs because they are just that poor, that's why their children are 3 times more likely to be sexually abused. That is exactly why. As a child, I was latchkey. I was allowed to answer the phone and I would say, "My mother is not available right now," and I hung up, but nobody kept me. I'm not advising you do that with your children. I'm just saying that Nobody was abusing me because nobody kept me. Now, my mom worked for IBM, so we were not poor, but that's just how she chose to do it. Also, if your child has a disability, if you have a child that is autistic or developmentally disabled or physically disabled, your child is more likely to be sexually abused. Let's talk about who we have to be worried about. Who as women we should be looking out for, right? Who do we need to red flag in our minds when we're talking about people abusing our children as single mothers? Most abusers are men. Now, don't get upset, men. I'm not trying to say you guys are all abusers. The fact of the matter is, though, that most sexual abusers are men. Normally, they're going to be respected members of the community. They're not going to be anybody that you would suspect would be abusing a child. These people are going to be looking for opportunities to have access to children. They might be volunteering at places. They may go out of their way to help with children. This will be the person always trying to take pictures of kids, always offering to help at the party, always offering to take your kid to the pool. I had one of my neighbors say, and I've had this actually happen with several neighbors. Oh, your kids can come and swim in our pool. We're going to have a pool party, or we're going to the pool. Do you want us to take your girls? No, I don't. In fact, I'm suspicious. You even asked me. In fact, I have a neighbor, y'all. Let me tell you, I am really a mama bear. I have a neighbor. He has two giant dogs. I don't know what kind of dogs they are, but the dogs are the size of like a 2-year-old child. They're huge. And he walks them. And I had to tell my kids to not approach him to pet the dogs or talk to him because he would walk the dogs and then he would try to, like with the neighborhood kids, because there's a lot of kids in my neighborhood, in my cul-de-sac. And he doesn't even live in our cul-de-sac, y'all. He lives in the next cul-de-sac, but he would bring his big old dogs over here to the cul-de-sac full of children. And all the children would run over and pet the dogs and talk to him. And 5 and 10 minutes would be going by and this man would just be talking to kids. And I told my kids, don't talk to him. I am suspicious that he keeps coming over here with these freaking dogs. This is a big neighborhood. We have a lot of areas to walk your dog. Why are you coming into our cul-de-sac from your cul-de-sac with these dogs all the time, chopping it up with these little 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10-year-old kids for 5 and 10 minutes? You don't have that much conversation for a child. In my mind, he's already convicted as a pedophile. Like, leave our cul-de-sac. My kids cannot talk to him. He was walking his dogs back in, because you guys, anybody who's been to my vlog channel, you know that in back of the homes where I live, there is a wooded area. It's just trees, right? Wild trees. He has a habit of walking his dog, because none of this is gated, behind the houses. Oh, I literally threw a flippin' fit. Because I have a 3-story house, and on the back side of my house at ground level are children's bedrooms. If you don't take these funky ass dogs and go walk them somewhere else. I mean, that is what I mean about hypervigilance. See, weird stuff like that. People who have, like, what conversation do you have as a grown man with a child for 10 minutes? You want to give out presents. You want to bring puppies. You know what I'm saying? I'm suspicious of people like that. I told you guys, I don't even let people pick up my kids. You don't touch my children. Don't even look at my children too long. You guys think I'm kidding, but people who know me know that I'm not joking. I start to treat people funny. If I see you staring at my child, I will call you out. Why are you looking at her like that? Do you need something? I will call you out openly. People are uncomfortable. I'm telling you, my mother, before she passed, her boyfriend didn't even like for us to be over there. He said, Irene is too weird about the kids. You can't do anything with those kids. People don't even want to talk to my kids. I have men out here in this world, they know not to even speak to my daughters. Don't even, you better nod, say hi, and keep it flipping moving. Okay? Save your conversation for an adult. That is what I mean about hypervigilant. I had a soccer, one of my boys did soccer, and the coach wanted to be able to drive him to soccer practice to take the burden off of me. Word? Really? I'll just be burdened, okay? This will just be my burden. I gave birth to him. I'll just be burdened, okay? Because then the soccer coach will be molesting your little boy. This is what I mean about hypervigilance. Because it's easy to want to look for help as a single mother, but you know what? Sometimes you're just going to have to do it the hard way. It's either that or have somebody playing with your little kid. Which one are you going to pick? And that's the decision that we have to make. Right, Mika? Adult men don't need to be in children's faces. I will go smooth the hell off. I really will. I am looking for it. I'm looking for somebody to be inappropriate. And I talk to my kids about this too. I let my daughters know you got no conversation for adult men. Say hello, keep it moving. My kids know I don't trust anybody with you. Absolutely not. And that goes for children too. When children are playing in your home, have them leave the doors open. Be checking on them. An abused child will teach. I mean, how many of us as little kids had little kids do little nasty stuff to us because some adult taught them that? We have to be hyper vigilant. So a pedophile is most likely going to be a man. He's most likely going to be upstanding. He's going to be at the school. He's going to be at the kids' social clubs, the YMCA. He's going to be at the church, y'all. He's going to be at the church. I don't even let my kids, now y'all are going to think I'm crazy. You know how sometimes they separate the children for Sunday school? Well, my kids won't be there unless I'm the Sunday school teacher. My kids will sit right in adult Sunday school. They'll sit right through the service. No, thank you, ma'am. No, thank you, sir. I will not be letting you take my kids. In fact, the churches I like the best, I know of one church where they're like, you keep your kids with you. We're not taking your kids anywhere. That's my kind of church, okay? If you go to church, don't think that these people will not molest your child in the church. These churches these days are wicked as hell. These people are anything but Christian up in the church. Solely in the church to prey on children because they know you're going to send your kid off to Sunday school or off to the nursery. You're praying at the altar and they carry your baby off to the nursery so you can get close to God. Nope. They can come to the altar with me. Even in the churches. They're going to likely be somebody you know. These are going to be your friends. Like I said, church members, the soccer coach, Uncle so-and-so, Auntie so-and-so's boyfriend, your cousin. Somebody that you know, ladies, are going to be the ones to try to put their hands on your kids. So you knowing a person doesn't make them okay. You knowing a person makes them a suspect. I suspect everybody. I don't trust none of y'all. Nobody. I don't trust you. I have offended a lot of people because I don't trust you. I've had some people say, you don't trust me? No, fool, I don't trust you. With a whole person that I gave birth to, I wish I would. This baby didn't break open my matrix so that you can do something funny with my child. I don't trust any of you guys. Nobody. I trust no one. You won't give somebody your credit card and the pin to your bank account and free reign with your money, but you'll give them a whole human being. That is the part where I mean we have to be hyper vigilant as women. So the first thing that somebody who wants to abuse our children is going to do is he's going to buddy up to you and your family. He wants you to like him. He wants you to trust him. The goal is to get access to your children. If you trust him, if you think he loves you, if you think Uncle so and so is so great, Auntie so and so, what was that? What was that one? What was he, a football player or something? I don't know. His his girlfriend's cousin or niece was over spending the night at their house and he was having sex with a little 13-year-old girl. See, it's those kinds of games we play. You trust your cousin, but your cousin's boyfriend, you don't know him. So, you know what? I guess she won't be watching your kid. They will tend to make inappropriate comments and they will engage in inappropriate touching. That's why I said don't let people touch your kids. Don't let people pick up your kids. Do not put your arm on my child's shoulder. Do not touch my child's hand. Look, there is what is called personal space. You better stay an arm's length away from my child. Okay? Don't enter my child's personal space for any reason. I am serious. I teach my children about personal space. Look, you put your arm out. That's about how far anybody needs to be from you. If I see somebody invading my child's personal space, leaning over them, excuse me, I need you to back up because it's not enough. Your child needs to know that that person doesn't belong in their space, and that person needs to know that you're watching them. Now, you could be wrong and they could be harmless, but if you are right and they are a person that wants to hurt your child, they're going to move on to the next woman's child because they're going to recognize you're not playing with them today. Your child's not going to be easy target because you're the kind of mom where they're not even going to be able to get in proximity of your child. That will deter a predator. So they like to engage in a lot of touching. Pick the child up, sit the child on their lap, lean over the child, help the child do stuff. They want to push their kid on the swing because you get contact with the little kid's butt. No, I don't need you to do anything. Wow. Snapzilla said, when I was 10, the 12-year-old neighbor girl took my virginity. A year later, I found out she had a baby by a grown man and was living with him. Exactly. A 12-year-old took his virginity. And that happens. That's why I said we got to watch little kids too, because we think all children are innocent, but everybody's parent is not protecting their child. And these children will molest your child too. Because somebody has violated them and they will pass on that violation. I had a little girl tell me once, we were little, there were two little girls. I won't say her name, but she was being abused, and her little friend came to my house talking about they wanted us all to lay on top of each other and rub until we felt the tingle. Where does a little kid, how old were we? We might have been 8 or 9. We were little. But see, that won't go on in your household if you don't let children be alone in rooms together. Sometimes we want to just take a flipping break and don't want to have an eye on our kid. And then you'll have people laying on top of your kid, rubbing on them till they feel the tingle in the bedroom while you're watching Real Housewives of Atlanta. We cannot let this stuff go on. As mothers, we have to, you know what? You know, when I take my me time, let me be real with you guys. I take my me time when my children go to bed. That is my time to do my pampering. That is my time to do my relaxation. When those kids are asleep, I worry about me. That means I get less sleep than everybody else in this house. But y'all, I am old as dirt, and you guys can see I still look very young. It has not been any worse on my body. to put myself to the side because I need to have all eyes on these little ones. I don't know what's going on. I need to watch them. I need to be everywhere. People know that I am nosy. I'm going through rooms. I'm looking through things. You know, my children are homeschooled. I go into the chat where the kids are talking. I'll bust in on the class. I'm paying attention. We have to all do that for our children. It's necessary. As mothers, we must do that. Hassan said, my daughters were never sitting on anyone's lap when they were little, let alone mine. And I agree with that. I agree with that. I agree with it. And you know what else I don't like? Don't straddle any child. You'll have little girl children, people picking them up and straddling the little girl on their leg. Why is your leg in between her thighs? If you were going to pick up a little girl, they sit sideways, they sit away from your crotch. Just period. The only person that is holding my child in close proximity to them is me, the person whose womb they came out of. Otherwise, we need to have some rules and regulations for this. People have to learn to keep their hands to themselves. You have to be watching for stuff like that. You have somebody pick up your daughter or your son on their lap. You have somebody sitting your little girl on their knee so that one side of her leg is on one side of their leg and one side of her other leg is on the other side of their leg, like she's riding a pony. You better check that. These are the little things as mothers that we often miss. But this is what I mean about hyperdiligence. The burden of the Black single mother is the protection of our children. Because we have 70, like I said, almost 70% of our girls out here getting molested. 1 in 5 of our boys out here getting molested, and most of them are coming from single parent homes that are female led. So we're not picking on the mothers, but you know what? We birthed these babies into the world, ladies. Nobody should be more invested in their protection than us. We shared our bodies with our children. These babies came from our wombs. Nobody should be going as hardcore to protect them as we do. Being a mother is a huge job, not to diminish fatherhood in any sort of way, but motherhood and fatherhood are two totally different things. "35% of child molesters will threaten your child with violence." In my home, we have a thing. Okay, so this is something I advise you guys. In my home, we have a rule. In my home, we have a rule. The God's reign, I agree that the burden falls on both parents. But when we're talking a single mother household, at the end of the day, the burden of everything to do with the child is going to fall hardest on the parent that is with the child all the time. Fathers are responsible too, but we cannot pretend like the greater amount of work doesn't have to come from the parent that is with the child all the time. It may not be fair, but that is how it is. But I agree with you. Yes, fathers, get involved. Some man make up one of you men go do a live on what fathers need to do to protect their children. I'm a mother, so I'm speaking to other mothers. Okay? I'm telling you from a woman's perspective, woman to woman, we're having this conversation as women about what we're about to do so that we can get these sexual abuse rates down in our community, about what we're about to do to protect these children that came out of our wombs. If nobody else protects them, you know who's going to protect them? We as mothers, we should be about that. Yeah, definitely God's reign. We're on the same page. So I tell my kids in my house we have a rule. In fact, hold on one second. So you guys know that I'm serious. Elizabeth, come here, baby. Not you. Okay. So this is Elizabeth. Elizabeth, say hi.
Hi.
How old are you, baby girl?
11.
So what is the rule about secrets in our house?
No secrets.
Can you say that nice and loud?
No secrets.
There are no secrets. Is that the rule?
Yeah.
Does everybody agree with that?
Unless it's a birthday.
No secrets for birthdays either. That's my 4-year-old. He doesn't know better. That's why he really can't do anything. What about you, baby girl? What is the rule about secrets?
We can't have any secrets against you?
Well, no secrets at all. If somebody asks you to keep a secret, what did I tell you? Can you trust people that ask you to keep secrets?
No. Nope.
You guys hear my children? Get out of my room, you guys. Go ahead. Y'all, I don't play. We don't do surprises. Okay, I don't need a surprise for anything. There are 0 secrets. Not for a surprise, not for a gift. I told my children, adults will ask you to keep secrets. And then once they get you comfortable with keeping secrets, they will start doing bad things to you and they'll have you keep those bad things secrets too. So there are just no secrets. And do you know what that means? That means my kids bust me out all the time, y'all, because I don't have them keep secrets either. So my kids are the kids who will say some stuff and I'll be like, oh my gosh, I did not want anybody to know that. But I would rather have them embarrass me every now and again than have them thinking that it's okay to keep a secret and some disgusting pervert use the fact that I allow secrets in my home to against my children so that they are keeping a secret of somebody harming them. There are no secrets in my home. There are no surprises in my home. Now, y'all might think that's a very boring home. Nobody can have a surprise party, but you know what? A surprise party requires secrets. So we will have no surprise parties here because I don't want to be surprised by somebody having raped one of my kids. So we just have a no secret policy, 0 secrets. And if somebody tells you to keep a secret, that's not a person you can trust. That is what I teach my children. The minute an adult tells you to keep a secret, the minute somebody wants you to keep a secret, do not trust them. Because today it'll be a secret about a piece of candy. Tomorrow it'll be a secret that they touched you. So we don't keep any secrets because bad people use secrets to hurt children. That is what I tell my kids. And as their mother, I don't ask them to keep my secrets either. So if I don't want my kids speaking on my business, I don't make them a part of my business because I won't even have them keep a secret for me. It is no secrets across the board around here. And this is what I mean at being hyper diligent about protecting our children. Now, you heard my 4-year-old say, well, unless it's a birthday party, and I corrected him real quick. And then you heard my older children say absolutely no secrets. And if I pulled some of my adult children in here, because you guys know I have children that are in their 20s. If I pulled my 24-year-old son, he would say the same thing. If I pulled my adult children in the room, they're not all here, but if I could, they would tell you they grew up the same way. There are no secrets. We don't do that. And you better tell me if somebody tells you to keep a secret. I always let my kids know if somebody tells you you're going to get in trouble, if you tell me something, you tell me anyway, because that person's going to get in trouble. You let mom know everything because I will protect you. I don't care what anybody says. They will be the one in trouble, not you. They will be the one in trouble, not you. But we have to have those conversations as parents. As mothers, you guys know I was married once. I was a single mother. I got divorced. I was a single mother. I wanted to date too. I wanted to do stuff too, but y'all, I had to be careful. I had people highly offended that they could not come to my house. I don't need you at my house. You don't need to be at my house. My house is for me and my children. It's not for you. I don't know you like that. 81% of child sexual abuse occurs between an adult and a child between 6 and 11 years old. Also, most abuse is going to occur at somebody's house. Okay? 84% of child sexual abuse occurs in somebody's home. That's why I really harp on, I know it can happen at schools, at the Boys and Girls Club and all that, but most sexual abuse occurs in people's homes. That's why I'm talking about letting your kids stay over people's houses, sending your kids for play dates, bringing people into your home. 84% of abuse occurs in somebody's home. It could be your home, it could be your family member's home, it could be your child's friend's home, but that is where the abuse is most likely to occur. So we need to have our eyes peeled nice and wide whenever our child is in a house. We need to be on that. You're over your girlfriend's house, the kids are playing together, there are a few adults there, whatever. You need to be getting up from your drink and your conversation every 5 or 10 minutes and knowing where your child is. Walk through that house. See what your child is doing. Because while you're having a good time, somebody could be fondling your baby. I can't tell people how to raise their kids, but I would strongly advise you do not let your children do sleepovers or play dates. My children have never had a sleepover, none of them. Because I don't trust y'all. I don't trust anybody. I absolutely don't. And you should not either. You shouldn't trust anybody, not with 70% of little girls getting abused. It's 68%, but heck, that's 70% of girls getting abused in the Black community. You really can't trust anybody, okay? We don't have the room. One in 5 little boys in the Black community getting sexually abused. We don't have the space to trust anybody. We need to be suspecting everybody. We need to be really suspicious. This should be neighborhood watch out here. We are watching you. Black mothers are watching y'all, okay? We collectively have our eyeballs on you. And we collectively don't trust you. There are even some times of day that it's more likely. Sexual assaults on children are most likely to occur in the morning, the early morning hours, in the afternoon, and between 3 and 4 p.m. When we're talking about older children between the age of 12 to 17, we see those children getting abused in the evening more. That makes sense, right? Because older kids, we tend to give them a little more freedom, which means that people have more access to them in the evening hours. Younger children tend to get abused during the early morning and the afternoon time. This is all stuff that we need to know as mothers. Let's talk about how you can tell if your child is being abused. Tone Watts, paranoid. Okay, I'll be paranoid. I don't care. But Tone Watts, just put him on a timeout. Let's just do that. He doesn't have to get blocked, but we'll put him on a timeout. Take a breather, Tone Watts. This is not bash black women time. That's not what we're here for. We're here empowering each other with information so that we can protect our babies, just period. And as far as paranoid, I am paranoid, okay? Like I said, I am hyper vigilant. Hyper means overly vigilant. So that my children don't become part of that 70%. Just period. It's either I'm going to be hyper vigilant or my children can likely become part of that 70%, which means that most of our children will be abused, which means that we need to be on top of this. You can't be paranoid enough. Let me just throw that out there. You can't do enough. When we're looking to see if our children have possibly been abused, because we should be having regular conversations. By regular, I mean bring it up a couple times a month. Constantly remind your child what they need to be looking for and that you are a safe person for them to come to because you will protect them. I have that conversation randomly with my kids all the time because I need them to remember. I don't need you to ever forget. Because a pedophile is diligent in their grooming of your children, so you have to be diligent in letting them know that you will see a pedophile in jail for them, that you will go to bat for them, that you will believe them, and that you are here to protect them, so they come to you for protection. That nothing is ever their fault. We were having a conversation over on Taz Exclusives channel, and you actually had some idiot over there talking about the child bears some sort of responsibility in molestation. Well, gosh, if they bear responsibility in molestation, the molester is telling them that too, that they're going to get in trouble. You would be crazy to let your child think that if somebody is harming them, you're going to hold them responsible. Let them know it will never be their fault, but you will always protect them. This is when people who don't have kids should stay the heck out of these conversations, because people come and they say some crazy things sometimes. If your child is being depressed, anxious, if your child starts to exhibit a lot of anger, if they don't want to do the things that they normally do, if they show an aversion to certain people, if they start self-harming in some way, banging their head, or harming themselves in any other way, if they are having nightmares, if you see anything off about your babies, ladies, we have to tune into that. If a child of mine even is looking funny, I will call them in and we're going to talk about why you have a funny look on your face. I need to know. If you're crying about something, I need to know. If you seem to have an attitude about something, we need to talk. I may not feel like talking to you. You know, as mothers, we get tired. Sometimes you don't want to deal with it. But you know what? I still got to find out. I need to know. Because I don't want the time to be that I didn't ask to be the time that I really needed to ask the question. Let's talk about teen pregnancy. There is a correlation between teen pregnancy and child sexual abuse. And actually a brother and I think it was Snapzilla, he spoke to that. A teenager who got pregnant by an adult. That child was obviously being sexually molested. Where we see a teen mother, we often see a young girl who has been molested. There is a correlation. So a lot of these issues that we talk about in the Black community can be solved by simply protecting our children initially. Will really curve a lot of the issues that we have in our community. Also, over-sexualized behavior is common for children of sexual abuse. So, y'all, I don't watch TV or anything, but I know a lot of parents probably do things like watch BET. Is BET even on television anymore? Like music videos and stuff like that. A lot of times we'll watch these music videos with our kids, and we think it's cute when our little girls dance like adult women. We think it's cute when our little girls have their little hands on their hip and they're twerking or doing whatever little dances adults do. We think that's cute, but you are helping your child to be sexual and you are making your child a target. The grooming process is going to go very easy for your little girl or your little boy if you're out here letting them watch adult things and act like little adults. You think it's cute that your little girl can imitate Beyonce. You think it's cute when your little girl can twerk or when she's got her hands on her hip. Or I saw a picture of two little girls taking a picture, and in the picture, the little girls had their butts facing the camera and they were looking over their shoulders. They were looking back at it in the picture. I said, what kind of picture? Whose mother allowed these little girls to take a picture where their butts are facing the camera and they are looking over their shoulders? I don't need to see your butt. If you don't take this picture straight on, I wish one of my daughters would put her hands on her hip. Girl, you don't have any hips. You are a whole child out here. You better drop your hand. You better drop your hand and cross your ankles and act like you're a child around here. The only kind of dancing I want to see a little child to do are little funny dances they make up. I don't never want to see a child doing something I can see in a rap video. If your child is rap video dancing, then you need to put a stop to that. Because the person that wants your child to be hypersexual will not have a long way to go if your child already knows how to shake their butt and dance like a grown woman. Right, Slim Duncan? Exactly. Heck, even if I want to listen to some ratchet music, I will put it on my headphones, okay? The only music I play in my house are freaking educational songs like the solar system, the water cycle, educational songs, or church music. You know what? We are not listening to anything else up in here. If I want to listen to any other kind of music, I will put it on my headphones. I don't have a television in my house, but if I want to watch something inappropriate, I could do that by myself. But don't expose your children to this because then it won't be a long leap for a pedophile to get them to take that behavior a step further. To get them to take that behavior a step further. In the Black community, we think it's cute to tell little boys, oh, this is your girlfriend, give so-and-so a kiss. Oh, we think that's cute until somebody exploits that and then is raping your little boy. So I'm not going to keep on with this. I'm going to end it there. Right, Slim Duncan, I don't feel comfortable with it around my kids either. I don't even want them observing that. But this is just all food for thought, This starts off our series on sex. So this time we dealt with probably the most sensitive issue, which is single mother sexuality and how that attaches to child sexual abuse. Again, not to drag our mothers, but because we as women have to be able to talk about this. We as a community have to be able to talk about this so that we can position ourselves to protect our children better than we are, because we are not doing a good job at it right now. Let's just keep it real. We collectively are not succeeding at protecting our children, so we must do better. So we have to have these conversations honestly and without attacking people, but by arming them with the knowledge and the self-assurance that they need to know that you're not the only one that is going through this. You're not alone in this fight, but you must fight the fight. That is essential. The next conversation that I want to have is on pornography. And I want to talk about the origins of pornography and us embracing a European standard of sexuality. I think that will be an interesting discussion. But I hope that you guys felt that I approached this discussion with sensitivity. I appreciate you guys participating and like sharing how you parent and all of that, because I think that will be helpful to all of us to bounce ideas off of each other. And I hope that collectively we can learn from this and that our community really can do better. Do share this video. I rarely ask that we share things, but if you don't at least share my video, at least have this conversation with mothers that you know. Because if we don't talk about this amongst ourselves, then we will not be able to tackle this issue. We must do a better job at protecting our babies. We have to. We are not succeeding at that. We are failing at protecting our children, and we have to do better. They are the future of our community. If we don't protect them, then we are destroying our community from the cradle. So yeah, with that said, I am going to go. As far as sources, Tone, I always put sources in the description box. So in the next, few minutes to an hour, you guys will see my sources in the description box for some of this information, and also just for your perusal, so that you can know what to look for, so that you can be protective of your little ones, right? I think that that's very important. So with that said, I will talk to you guys later.